Hello, welcome to Nursing with Professor B. I am going live every week to answer your questions, whatever questions you may have about the profession or anything in general about what videos I have on my channel. So, thank you everyone that's watching. If you're watching the replay, you can always leave a comment below and I can answer it at a later time. That was my dog, so sorry about her. So, if you have a question, drop it in the chat and I will answer it for you. If not, what I usually do is I will talk about a topic of the week. Hi, Wilbur. How are you doing? Where are you watching from, Wilbur? So, I actually am just getting over COVID. Today is possibly day 15. We're seeing a huge surge in the state of Florida of COVID cases. It's insane. Part of my job is signing off positive results with COVID, looking at data, and it's just been a huge surge in COVID the past few days here in Florida. So, make sure that you don't let your guard down, that you're still getting your vaccines, wearing your mask, etc. It wasn't fun. Like residual effects that I still have from it is I had asthma to begin with, so I'm getting shortness of breath and palpitations. So Wilbur is watching from Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. Hello. Um, so the topic of the hair, Wilbur, do you have any question in particular that you want me to answer? Or if not, I will just start talking. Okay, so first I wanted to touch on the importance of how to get through nursing school and even hola, ¿cómo está, Santana? Okay, so first I want to touch on how to get through nursing school or how to even get through, how to achieve certain goals in life. Thank you, Yavel, for your donation. All right, so how do you achieve goals in life? A lot of it has to do with goal setting. Zig Ziglar has a saying that he says that if you don't have something to aim at and shoot at, then you're just basically shooting blindly. How are you going to achieve your goal? So I always like the SMART method of goal setting, and that's have goals that are specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and timely, right? Because again, Zig Ziglar says that if you have a goal and you don't write it down, that's just a wish. So in nursing school or whatever goal you're trying to achieve in life, hi, Joe, I will get to your question. So, whatever goal that you have in life, if you break it down into little parts, bits and pieces, and attack it step by step, one day at a time, you'll say, today I'm going to study 2 hours, Tuesday, another 2 hours, or every day I will study 30 minutes instead of saying, oh, I'm going to cram right before the test. You're not setting yourself up for success. So let's get back to the questions. Joe is asking, is it worth getting a DNP? Joe, that's an excellent question. That's something that I've debated myself. I originally obtained a master's in nursing education, and then I went back to school for FNP. I did a postmaster certificate. So, personally, I've already done 4 years of graduate school, and the thought of going back again for maybe another 3 years is frankly traumatizing. It depends on what you want to do. If you want to teach, yes, getting a DNP is worth it, right? Because most universities require a DNP. So, what is your goal in life? What is your end goal? There is not much of a difference initially on how much you get paid with a master's versus a DNP. They initially will offer maybe 10K more, maybe. Some sites do not even care. The current position that I have, you get paid the same. It doesn't matter if you have a master's or if you have a doctorate. So it really depends on what your end goal in life is. Of course, obtaining a doctorate is a phenomenal goal, and it's something that people that have it should be very proud that they did that. And it's a terminal degree, so you're done. Is it worth it though financially? Like, how much is the program going to cost you? Are you going to be making more money? So I'll give you an example. Psych NP right now, that is huge, and that pays a lot of money. So I'm not saying that you should do psych NP just because you want to get paid a lot, and you, like, let's say you hate mental health, but you're like, oh, I'm going to do this because it pays so much money. No, right? That's not ethical, and that's not something you should be doing, it, period. But DNP versus psych certificate right now, you may even be making more money as a psych NP. So I hope that answers your question. Again, it depends on what you want to do, Joe, and what your end goal in life is. So Wilbur is asking, he says he wants to know about what is CPR and what is the Heimlich maneuver. So do you have anything in particular, Wilbur, like more specifically? CPR is something that anybody really should learn, and it's basic resuscitation skills. If someone, you find someone unconscious, what to do in that scenario. Did they have a heart attack? And then CPR is being able to perform compressions and rescue breaths. And they changed the name of the Heimlich maneuver to abdominal thrust, I believe, this past 2020. And if someone is choking, how to be able to perform abdominal thrust to save them. So if anybody has any additional questions, drop them in the chat. I will continue to answer them. If not, I will keep on talking about goal setting. The other thing that is very important to understand in order to get through school is the importance of just, I would say, diligence, dedication, because a lot of people believe that, oh, if someone goes through this many years of school, they must be very motivated. They must have a lot of motivation. And there are days like today, I just worked a full 11-hour shift. And I am here because I made a commitment to myself. So I have a lot of self-discipline. I think self-discipline is extremely important to exercise and enhance, and self-discipline is a muscle. And you can, just like you can work out your biceps, you can build on self-discipline. So I think that self-discipline is a value that is very important to cultivate, that in this day and age, we don't really pay much attention to because everything is at our fingertips. We want everything instantaneously. So the ability to sit down and study for hours on end takes a lot of self-discipline. The ability to pursue long-term goals takes self-discipline. So how do you work on self-discipline? Well, you do stuff when you don't want to do it, right? Even when you're tired. Like I was saying, today I'm tired. Did I really want to sit here in front of this camera today and record? Frankly, no, because I'd rather sit down, watch TV, relax, right? But I care about this channel. This channel is more to me than just a hobby. I would love to grow it, and I dream of the opportunities, of the potential opportunities that could come from this channel. So I treat this like a job, basically, and I show up because I said I'm going live at 8 and I'm going to go live on 8. You know, barring some extreme catastrophe, I will be here. So Joe says, thank you for responding. I actually graduate Psych NP in summer 2022. Fantastic, Joe. Congrats. Like I said, I'm so passionate about psych. I actually did work in mental health nursing when I was an RN. I love mental health. I chose FNP originally because I wanted to be able to practice in a variety of areas, but now I'm definitely thinking of actually going back to school for Psych NP. Sorry, my mom was calling me. So Joe, congrats on graduating in summer of 22. And do you have a job lined up if you're still watching, or do you know what specialty you want to work with? Are you going to work with adults, children, substance abuse? So exercising self-discipline, just like going to the gym, do one thing every day that you don't want to do. And like, let's say you don't really feel like cleaning up your room. Well, clean up your room, right? Let's say you always take a hot shower. I would recommend this in the morning though, because cold showers like really wake you up. But if you always take a shower with hot water, then take a shower with cold water that day. If you always are on a specific app or playing a game or watching TV all the time, say, you know what, for today, for this whole day, I will not watch Netflix the whole day. And that's how you start to exercise self discipline bit by bit. Because if you don't master yourself, then you are a slave to your habits, and habits can be good or bad. So I'm very passionate about self improvement and self development and being the best version of yourself. And for me, just the way that I'm wired, being productive gives me a sense of satisfaction and accomplishment. I don't know about you, leave a chat in below, but do you feel better about yourself if you binge watch Netflix all day, or do you feel better about yourself if maybe you woke up at a decent time, you worked out, or you read a book, or you helped your fellow citizen in the world if you did a good deed for the day? So, how do you feel better when you just binge watch something all day, or if you actually are productive with your day? And me personally, I feel like I feel a lot more, I have an increased sense of satisfaction if I did something of value with my time, because we're only on this planet for a short amount of time. So, what are we doing with that time? And whether you believe in God or not, so let's say you do believe in God, when you get to heaven and God maybe shows you your life, I don't know, I've never died and come back, so I can't say for sure. But when we see what we did with our life, are we going to be proud or are we going to be ashamed? So I encourage you, I encourage you this week to work those muscles of self-discipline and to do something, whether it's a good deed to your neighbor or somebody. And when I mean neighbor, I don't mean your literal neighbor. I'm saying anybody, right? Open a door, say hello, smile, even if you're wearing a mask, or smile if you're not wearing a mask. Read a book, do something different. And Yavel is saying he doesn't have my discipline because it takes time. It's a lifetime of me practicing these habits. And I have talked about Hoopla before on my channel. It's Hoopla. It's through your local library, and you can listen to hundreds of Audible books. So I have listened to so many motivational books, audiobooks throughout the years. And I encourage you too. I mean, anxiety, depression, all of these conditions are through the roof. And part of me believes that it's because we're feeding our brains junk, garbage in, garbage out. If you are constantly surrounded by negativity, whether it's coming from your family or from the shows that you watch, and you don't feed your brain, it's just like junk food for the soul, right? Just how your body feels like garbage if you eat garbage all the time, your mind is either growing or deteriorating. So what choice are you making every day? And you don't have to be this, perfect person. I'm not perfect, but even if you just download Hoopla or you have Audible and you listen to an audiobook for 15 minutes a day or 30 minutes a day, and but good books, like self-improvement books. And if you have any questions about what books I recommend, again, feel free to write me or email me. But authors you can start with, I like Zig Ziglar a lot. Wayne Dyer I originally liked, but he's he believes in a lot of, I would say, like this supernatural, mystical. I feel like Zig Ziglar is more down to earth, realistic. I think that personally, to me, believing in the law of attraction is toxic, because the law of attraction says that everything that happens to you is your fault, whether it's good or bad. And to me, that's toxic, because people that have tragedies occur in their lives, such as being in a horrific accident and being left a quadriplegic, I don't think that that's that person's fault. But according to the law of attraction, everything. And I think that the law of attraction sets people up to blame themselves for things that aren't necessarily in their control. So Wayne Dyer takes things a little too far with the whole law of attraction and that. So books that I recommend is, like I said, Zig Ziglar. There's a new book that I started reading called Strength Finder, Malcolm Gladwell. Like I said, plenty of books in the moment, especially now that this is live. Of course, I can't think of specific things, but Brene Browning, there's phenomenal books out there that if you are feeling depressed, sad, that these books can lift you out of that and just help change your mindset. There's a book that was written by an MD and it's called Feeling Good. And the book itself is essentially almost like therapy, cognitive behavioral therapy. So instead of you going and seeing a therapist that maybe you don't have the time or you can't afford, I'm not saying that this would replace therapy, but it's a good alternative if you are just feeling a little off, maybe a little more sad than usual. That's a phenomenal book. So Alexandra is asking, what is the best resource for prescribing medications, treatment plans for a new FNP working in primary care or an urgent care setting? So thank you for your question. For me personally, my company pays for Hippocrates. So I use Hippocrates, I use Medscape, and I use UpToDate. I feel like UpToDate is better for giving you a more in-depth summary or reading about the condition you're treating. But I feel like Hippocrates usually is to the grain. Like it's less fluff. So I do like Hippocrates, and Medscape is actually free. So occasionally you can use Medscape as well. And I hope that answers your question, Alexandra. UpToDate is very expensive. So if your company pays for CME, if they provide CME money, I used my CME money to pay for UpToDate. But like I said, even with Hippocrates, because my company pays for it, I don't know how much it is, but Hippocrates would work just as well. And like I said, I feel like it's just more to the point. And Medscape, believe it or not, is pretty good as well if it's, something very simple. I would also recommend looking at your local area, like your Department of Health, and seeing what the recommendations are for example, if there's a lot of resistance to macrobid for UTIs, if not macrobid, Bactrim, if there's a lot of resistance to Bactrim, if you should be using macrobid as first line. But definitely always following guidelines, Alexandra, because it's a pet peeve of mine when, and I'm not accusing you of this, I'm just saying it's a pet peeve of mine when patients tell me like, or even I've heard providers, frankly, I've heard providers say that like anybody that goes to urgent care, they'll just give a Z-Pak to because they don't want them to get mad at them and they don't want to deal with it. And so I feel like that's so irresponsible that if you're a doctor, an NP, a PA, like we really should be good stewards of antibiotics. And I know it can be so hard when patients really want their antibiotics and you have to sit them down and tell them like, look, your best interest is what I have. Like I want what's best for you. And you have a viral infection. You do not need antibiotics. So I know it's hard, but we have to be good stewards. So Joe is asking, what other suggestions do you recommend to practice for self-discipline, especially towards the end of your last semesters? He says, I work in corrections, so I might start there for experience. Afterwards, I'm unsure. Excellent, excellent. I used to volunteer at prison, and honestly, I don't know what your experience has been, Joe, but they were some of the most appreciative and kind patients. I mean, not patients because I volunteered, but they were just so kind people, basically, and so appreciative of anything you do for them. So what other recommendations do I have to practice self-discipline? Like I said, just reading and filling your mind with the benefits of self-discipline. Let me just, oh, I don't have my phone on me. I was going to pull up what I've been reading, but telling yourself you're going to get up at a specific time, rewarding yourself with something that you enjoy when you do complete a task, but make sure it's a reward that is not unhealthy. So, for example, I wouldn't use food as a reward because, again, that could lead to excess calories and weight gain. So, but if you have an activity that you like to do, like if I sit down and study for 2 hours, I will play 30 minutes of video games. So, just offering yourself a reward that helps with my self discipline. And yeah, I mean, I can do a video on self discipline in the future once I gather my thoughts and can express them. So my fiance brought me my phone, so thank you. So the book that I'm reading right now is by John C. Maxwell, and it's The 15 Invaluable Laws of Growth. So that's an excellent book. And Strength Finder is another book that I was reading, Strength Finder 2.0, and it talks about how to focus on actually your strengths and not so much your weaknesses, because people that end up succeeding have focused on their strengths and built those strengths. So, for example, creativity is a strength of mine. So, I occasionally, when I can afford it, I will let others edit my videos so that I can focus on content creation. Alexandra said, "What was your first month like working as an FNP?" So, my first job was actually working in pain management, my first job as an NP. And it was overwhelming because in FNP school, we focus on primary care and we don't have a specialty that is on interventional pain management. And that's what my first job was. And this doctor was very anatomy and physiology focused. He wanted me to know, every like the dermatomes and every dermatome, what it affected, and cervical, lumbar, and all that, right? So it was overwhelming at first, and it is a huge learning curve. So don't get disheartened. And Alexandra, just stick it out somewhere. If you can stick it out for a year, if you're not happy, go somewhere else. I've had so many of my friends that weren't happy at a specific place and they moved somewhere else and they're absolutely loving it. They're flourishing. So don't stay in an area that you hate. That would be my biggest advice to an NP. There's too many opportunities out there for you to be in a job that you hate. Natalie said, going into my last semester of nursing school and now unsure I want to work in a hospital with everything going on. Are there other places you'd suggest working as a new grad? So Natalie, it's completely understandable. I will say this: think about it long and hard, because yes, there are places that you can work that may hire you even as a new grad. Keep in mind though that if you ever do want that hospital experience, so it's almost like once you start going down that path, do you want to stay down that path? Because if you don't get your hospital experience in the future, it may be really hard for anybody to give you that opportunity. You may be able to get it. It's like, for example, I really wanted to work peds when I first graduated as an RN, and I never got a job in peds. So I took a job working on a med tele unit with adults. And once I started down that road, like I really couldn't turn back because everybody really just wants experience. Like usually the one thing that will hold you back from getting a job is lack of experience. So where are some places you can work? There are a lot of infusion places. So there's a lot of infusion places popping up that, for example, like nurse practitioners will be the kind of oversee, and then the RN is the one that's putting IVs in patients. They hang the IV infusion, and it's a very relaxed environment. These patients are coming in and they're healthy. They just want like I don't know, vitamin C infusion or like energy or immune boost, things like that. So you could work at infusion centers. I do know that CVS is offering jobs to RNs, and you also would work alongside the nurse practitioner. And what you would do at CVS is you give injections, you assess with pelvic exams, you help check in patients. Like they'll come in and they'll see you first You'll do PPDs. So Natalie, working at CVS would be a good area to at least not completely lose your skills, because if you work at an IV infusion center, pretty much all you're doing is you may be doing some B12 shots and you're just going to be starting IVs all day and hanging IV bags. But it's a very laid back environment, stress free. So, but it's like, do you see yourself doing that forever? Because if you try to get a job at a hospital, it's going to be really hard. Yuval said that he thinks it's important to get your foot in the door, then you can always transfer into a unit you like more. And I agree with what he's saying, because it's almost like put up with it for a year, get your experience, and then pick wherever you want to go. You can do a cath lab, you can do pre-op, right? You could do post-op when patients are just waking up from surgery. You can do like the endo lab where patients are getting endoscopies and mostly they're asleep. So there's just so many options in nursing. There is also nursing work from home positions. But again, I recommend getting at least a year. And then if you want to transition to nursing, working from home, you can do that. There's actually a Facebook group called The Remote Nurse. And every week she sends out jobs of what's available for nurses as well as nurse practitioners. Hi, A&J Vlog. Hello, my friend. So Yuval says that getting in a system in the first place and networking is very important. Yes, that's so true. When I was able to get my first, it's been a while. So my first job as an RN was actually doing management as like an RN manager overseeing medication aids, right? So I was the only RN there and I was overseeing medication aids at an assisted living facility. But because hospitals at the time wouldn't give me a job because I was a new grad and I didn't have experience. So after working there for a year, I knew I needed to get out of there and get hospital experience. So I kind of went a roundabout way. So I had a friend that worked in psych, and he reached out to me and said, "Hey, are you interested in working in psych?" I said, "Sure." And that's actually how I got my first job in anything that was similar to a hospital environment because of my friend. So networking is very important. And Natalie, I know that with everything that's going on, it's very hard, but it's so important to get that experience. You really cannot replace that experience. All right, so I've stayed on here for longer than I usually do because we had some excellent questions. I hope I was able to answer your questions. If there's no additional questions, then I will be signing off. And like I said, I'm here every week on Wednesdays at 8 p.m. So thank you so much for watching. Until next time.